morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Let's get the energy right here. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
That's what I'm talking about. Listen, this is really, it's a crucial conversation we have, but it's also very exciting for us because now we get a chance to go ahead and be part of the solution as opposed to part of the problem that's been plaguing so many men and women that are just trying to go and catch the footing, after going through whatever battle with the legal system that they've had. Some of these, I just talked to someone out in the hallway, they've had something that's been on their record for 48 years. That's a problem. There's nothing from 48 years back should be plaguing you from, or hindering you from being able to move forward with whatever it is you're looking to go ahead and do in life, period. And that's the reason why we're so excited to go ahead and be able to have what we have taking place in this building today. So number one, I want to go ahead and say thank you so much to these expert panelists that we have to the left and right. So please do me a favor and welcome them. The reason why it was important to have you in this room is because we want to go ahead and make sure. We good? We're following on me, okay. We want to go ahead and make sure that your voices are being heard. The people that you have here at the table are people that can actually help affect change on a multitude of levels. Federal side, state side, the county side, and also the city side. But the reality is I can holler and scream until the cows come home, but I'm not walking in your shoes. That's why we need to have you go ahead and be able to have your voices actually heard so we can make some strong pushing strides from an educational standpoint to make sure we get you everything it is that you're going to go ahead and need. So with that being said, it's only right that I go ahead and introduce you to these people that I call experts over here. First and foremost, I'm going to go ahead and take it from my far right here. This is a gentleman who's been doing, may I be all the way transparent with your journey? Okay. Gentleman, he did multiple years in the penal system, but he didn't take his circumstance that actually took him there and looked at to find what he was going to go ahead and do with his life. This is a man who's an entrepreneur, owner of multiple businesses, a true leader, and a mentor within the walls of Pontiac. So it's with the greatest honor that I ask that you please put your hands together for Mr. Jermaine Maximum Brown. Next, we have somebody else who has never been quiet about this, but talking about someone truly making it count. So one day I'm looking for that book, brother. Well, this is a gentleman who, once again, had a fight with the legal system. And how many years was it?
10 and a half with state time and another 18 months federal time.
10 and a half years on in the state penitentiary, and then another,
18 months.
18 months on the federal level. But this is a man now who's also a college professor. He was just the past president of the Pontiac School Board. He's also now the president pro tem of City Council for the city of Pontiac. Ladies and gentlemen, with the greatest honor, I ask you to put your hands together for Mr. Goodwill. This next lady right here, look, as soon as this lady's name came out by one person, it was like it was a wildfire that kind of took over because everyone speaks so highly of you and the work that you're doing over with the Michigan Department of Corrections. This is what it's all about. This is a woman who's working on the inside, trying to make sure everybody, when they come outside, is going to have everything that they need to be able to become successful, to be productive out here. So with the greatest honor that I ask that you please put your hands together for, let me get your title right, because y'all can check me once. Assistant Director, Deputy Director of Field Operations for the Michigan Department of Correction. I'm speaking about none other than Miss Beverly Smith. Put your hands together. And that's this guy right here. This is a guy who has a hell of a political career. Started out in school board, I believe, over for Auburn Hills. Yeah, many years ago. You ain't older than me, so started out school board, ended up pushing his talents over to the county level, where he ended up becoming a county commissioner. Then from there, ended up going to the state house, became a part of the Michigan House of Representatives. And then from there, he ended up going on and took his talents and decided, I'm going to go ahead and give it back to the community of Pontiac, so he ended up becoming the mayor of the city of Pontiac. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to put your hands together for one hard-working man, Mayor Tim Grunt. This lady right here is what we call the pure definition of an absolute dynamo. This is a woman who's been giving it back to so many multitude of communities. But we are so honored to have her coming from Pontiac. I mean, the thing is, she's always up in D.C., but what I like about her even more, she's even spending more time up in the state that she represents. And that's what this should be about. You know, this is a woman who I've had the honor of working with over the last year or so now on a multitude of different things, and she's fighting so hard to make sure Pontiac, Oakland County, Wayne County, Macomb, and
It's a whole bunch of them.
yeah, all the counties. Yeah, all those counties.
34 of them.
Yeah, 34 counties that she covers to make sure you're going to get everything that you need. It's with the greatest honor that I ask you to please put your hands together for our U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District, Miss Dawn Ice. Next, this lady right here is the one always trying to go ahead and lock me. No, this lady is absolutely amazing. This is a woman who works so hard to go ahead and make sure she's trying to put practices in place to make it so much easier for men and women trying to go and catch their foot and get it back into this world. You know, ultimately, you know, the thing about it, the thing that we always take for granted is we talk about when people go ahead and serve time, it's called served past tense. You paid your debt to society. There's no in the world when you come out, you're supposed to keep getting bent and hammered. You know, like you got the scarlet letter on your chest. And that's why I appreciate this woman so much, because she's trying to put proactive means in place to make sure that we're going to have you absolutely taken care of. So with the greatest honor, I ask that you please put your hands together for our Oakland County Prosecutor, Miss Karen McDonald. Next, this is a man who's been working so hard. This is a man who ended up having, how many years did we do, Brian?
10.
Brian Killian Bay. I mean, he was a leader as when we were kids, you know, because I do know him since we were snot noses. But the reality is to go ahead and take what he ended up going through on the 10-year stint, to go ahead and not let that define him, but decide I need to go ahead and fight to make sure these laws are going to be appropriate to help men and women have a better plight as we look to go ahead and move forward out here. That's why I appreciate you so much, because you dedicated your life to making sure that was going to take place. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask that you please put your hands together for the Executive Director of MyAct Foundation, which deals with this foundation specifically geared to be a resource hub for anybody who has anything you need to go ahead and try and get your hands on in a way of assistance once you get out. This is the man you want to go ahead and see. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Brian Killian Bay. That being said, there is a line of questions that was posed by the community that a multitude of people end up saying these are things they really wanted to go ahead and hear talk about. But how this is going to go, we're going to go over a line of these questions, but we have a microphone set up for our question and answer, because ultimately I've had some dynamic dialogue, and some of y'all just taught me a master class from the time I walked into this building to the time we got to this point that we're at right now. And those questions you gave me, you need to go and give them to these individuals here, because these are the ones that can truly affect those changes. So please, in short, keep that same energy that we had in the hallway to make sure you give it to them up here. Is that a good promise? Can we go with that? All right, then let's roll. First question that we have, and I'm just going to go ahead and put this out here. And I guess this is going to go ahead, this is going to try to go all the way across the table. Why don't we have more alternative sentencing for nonviolent and minor offenses, or do we? I repeat, why don't we have more alternative sentencing for nonviolent and minor offenses, or do we? Shall I go ahead and start out with you? Yes, Ms.
Sure, I'll take it. First of all, my approach to reducing violent crime is to focus on the drivers of violence, the most violent people, the most violent groups, and the most violent places. And do we in the federal system have alternatives for non-violent offenders? We most certainly do. It's called the Restart Program, and the Restart Program is our alternative to prison program. It's a 12 to 18-month program. When I was a line federal prosecutor, I participated in that. I represented our office on that program. It's a 12 to 18-month program for deserving folks who come, and it's a very intense probation. They meet with the committee, which is made up of, at that time, it was the chief judge of the federal court, along with the magistrate judge, the federal defender, pretrial services, probation, and I represented our office. I kept that program. That program is still going on right now. And then they get cognitive behavioral therapy, they get life skills, they are monitored and given an opportunity to improve their lives. And I have seen the transformation. I saw people transform, because what you will learn if you don't already know is if you treat your trauma, you will understand why you have done some of the things that you have done. And if you treat your trauma, you can improve your life. And so that cognitive behavioral therapy, I am such a believer in it because, especially through my participation in our research program where I saw people transform. I saw people transform, literally. And so for the federal, in this district, and that's not true in every federal district, but in this district, the Eastern District, we do have an alternatives to prison program.
Thank you for that. No, okay. Ms. McDonald, would you like to go ahead and elaborate on that from the county side?
Yeah. Is this working? Nobody, I don't think we can make our voices sound like this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm the county prosecutor, so all of the crimes in the city in this county, the state crimes, are almost all done through my office. And just to let everybody know, the office is 200 people, and there are 100 assistant prosecutors. But before I answer the question, I do want to just point out how truly lucky we are to have Don Eisen here. It's a first, I think, for our county to have the U.S. Attorney embedded in our communities like you are and invested in what we're doing. And I hope everybody understands that her office is in Detroit. She has a lot of counties. She is appointed by the president. And we are really lucky to have her here because she really cares about criminal justice reform. So I just want to thank her.
I appreciate that, Prosecutor McDonald, and you're doing exceptional work. So thank you, I appreciate that.
I think it was just so refreshing because we can sit down and we're on exactly the same page. Which is, and the reason I say that is not to pat ourselves on the back because I really don't have time for that. I say it because we're in a moment now where we are the chief law enforcement officials in our county, in our state, and we're saying to you, we want to figure out how we can focus on common sense criminal justice reform. As Ms. Eisen just said, we want to focus on the drivers of violent crime. And that's not to say that we don't think people should be held accountable for misdemeanors or for nonviolent crimes. Of course, you all want that. We all want to live in a community and in a state and a county that has rules that's important to keep us safe. However, the reason I left, I was a circuit court judge, and don't tell the judges this, but the people who really hold the key to the criminal justice system are the prosecutors. They're not the judges. So much of what a judge does is statutory, meaning they don't have a lot of discretion about sentencing. But the prosecutor has the choice about whether to charge somebody and what to charge them with. And so in the charging decision is really where I'm focused on making sure we are not just opening up a book and saying, here's what happened, what are all the things we can charge this person with? Because that doesn't make any sense. So yes, we are involved in alternatives to sentencing, like treatment courts, problem-solving courts. We have a drug court, we have a mental health court that we're involved in, both in our adult system and our juvenile system. We have a mental health expert as a community liaison embedded in our office. So that means the moment we get that case from law enforcement of all the different agencies, if we can see or flag that somebody has a mental health issue, and that is very prevalent and often the reason they're in the they were arrested in the first place, we get our liaison involved and try our hardest to see if she can connect that individual with the services that they need. Now, sometimes it's not possible. It just isn't, because there's somebody who's been hurt, or it's a serious crime, and we can't avoid having that person come into the criminal justice system. But if we can avoid it, that's what we're going to do.
Well, that's ironic you said that too. I'm going to go ahead and slide this question to you because it's just prevalent to where you just went. Then I'm going to bring this question back to you, Mayor. Look, the question was, currently mental health and policing have become intertwined. What is the prosecutor's office and or the legal system doing to assist those in need of therapy, not jail? So since you went down the mental health road, it's just a perfect segue for this question.
The liaison that's embedded in our office that's never been done before. And part of our job isn't to just say, okay, somebody needs mental health treatment. There's a lot of other things that have to take place. Judges, prosecutors, police officers are not mental health experts. We are essentially, I see it every day, trying to order mental health treatment as if we know what that means and as if we know what we're doing, and we're not. Police officers are not meant to do that. I don't personally want them doing that. And neither is my office. So that is why you need people in the office and embedded in law enforcement to recognize when that is the root cause of why this person is why somebody's being called out to deal with that, why that person's being arrested, and do our best to connect that person with stakeholders and services within our community. Now, I also work on the state level with our legislators and our state leaders to make sure we have those resources. That's why I'm sitting here on a Saturday morning in Pontiac, because if we don't connect with the community, and not just the statewide and the legislators, but people like the mayor and the mayor's office, then we're not going to solve this problem. It can't be solved with one person. It has to, or one entity or office. It has to be solved as a community and in partnership. And that's why, when I took office, we formed a Racial Justice Advisory Council, and the bulk of our work on this and that council within our office is in the city of Pontiac. And I have told all of my assistant prosecutors how important that is. But I gotta tell you guys, listen, this is not something traditionally prosecutors do. 10 years ago, 5 years ago, if you had asked the prosecutor's office to host and staff an expungement fair, I am absolutely certain both the elected and all the assistant prosecutors said, that's not our job, we prosecute people. But what I've really sought to do is create an understanding in the office that we have to care about you all. We have to care about what happens when somebody, after they leave our courtroom, because that's what's going to make us safe, and also that's just the right thing to do. So the short answer to your question is a lot more than ever has been done, but there's still a ways to go.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Did anybody else want to elaborate on that, although it was directed at the prosecutor's office, before I swing back to you, Mayor? Okay, good. And thank you for that answer, too, and clarity on what it is you're looking to go do from an initiative standpoint. Mayor, please elaborate on our question number 4 that we had.
Well, yes, and I will. Thank you for the opportunity. I do want to just take a moment, if I could, to thank you, Kano, and the Anti-Violence Commission for setting this up. This is a lot of work putting these together, and Kano answered, along with a number of other people, a clarion call that City Council and I put out to the community to serve on an anti-violence commission on behalf of the city, to try to do more to prevent violence from happening in the first place. So I want to thank you, for because this is an enormous amount of work being the chair of that commission. So thank you. We have other members of the commission up here, President Pro Tem William Carrington, Prosecutor McDonald, Brian Killian-Bay, and I know, Brian, you put in an amazing amount of work into this event as well. U.S. Attorney Eisen, I see you in Pontiac all of the time, and I never saw any U.S. attorneys here for 20 plus years. So I just want to make sure that we're acknowledging those who really care about the community. The members of the Anti-Violence Commission, they don't get paid a dime to do that work. They're doing it out of a love for the community and out of a desire to make the community safer and to show compassion to those who have gone through the system. But to answer the question, I wanted just to piggyback on Prosecutor McDonald's point earlier about a lot of what ends up happening in terms of sentencing is determined based on the charges that prosecutors bring, because the judges often don't have much, if any, discretion about what they sentence people to once they're convicted of a specific offense. And so this is a small, minor thing, but we had the school district approach us recently because they have a lot of kids in the public school district, in middle school, high school, who are vaping in class. And currently, under the law, they really just have two options. They can either discipline kids through the school rules, suspending kids or giving them detention or whatever, or they can charge them with effectively a minor in possession violation, which is a misdemeanor. And they obviously, and for good reason, don't want to give middle schoolers, high schoolers, a criminal record in the form of a misdemeanor for vaping. And so they approached us and said, hey, if the city could adopt a civil infraction ordinance, this would be an opportunity to have something a little more serious than just a rule violation in school that would not give kids a criminal record. It would basically be like a speeding ticket. And so that's something that we've connected our attorney, our city attorney, with the school district attorney to start drafting a possible ordinance that we'd like to propose to city council so that the prosecutor and the police officers have another option that is not criminal in nature. The other thing I did want to say too about the mental health piece, if I could, Kano, is I don't think police officers are eager to deal with mental health issues either when they come across them. So I think we need to find more ways to de-escalate those kinds of situations where somebody, it's not that they're malicious, it's not that they're mean-spirited, they're not well. And, you know, we need to have the resources that are needed to de-escalate difficult situations where somebody is mentally ill. And in Pontiac, the Oakland County Sheriff's Office does have a full-time 40-hour person who is a mental health professional who is deployed here in the community with them. But we really need more than just one, because obviously there are a lot more hours in the week than 40 hours. And so we're exploring ways that we can obtain funding to fund one or two additional people, because there are times when that 40-hour person, week person, just isn't available to respond. But the more we can nip those situations in the bud and address them without resorting to arrests, without resorting to prosecutions, the better off all of us will be.
To that point, Mayor, you know, I know we talk about criminal acts, and now you talk about it on an adolescence level as well as on an adult level. So I want to go ahead and pose this question. I want to go ahead and present this question, and then the next question I'm coming to the judicial system that was presented here. So with that being said, does the city and or educational system hold any blame for the uptick in crime or criminal acts committed by our youth and young adults? How much blame lies on our community leaders? That's something that's going to go all the way across the scale, because now I'm actually absolutely calling for our community leaders to go and speak on that, and also city officials as well. So who wants to take that before I call you out, Mr. Carrington?
Well, I definitely will take a stab at that question. I don't necessarily think that the city and the school district are blamed for the uptick in crime, but I think the sociological environment that we live in, from social media, music, I don't want to say rap music, but all music, and it's very derogatory, and it creates this culture of poverty that continues to plague our community. But I think the responsibility of our city council, our mayor, and our elected officials is that when we see it, that we get proactive about dealing with the situation. Not in a very hard-handed way, but definitely as a way to let this community and let the youth know that we care about them. We try to deter them from going into prison and to alter a program.
To that point, thank you for that, Mr. Carrington. But to that point, Brian, you know, the thing I know about you and Jermaine, you both are doing a lot of mentoring programs inside the schools, public and charter. So what is that you see from a responsibility standpoint? We know there's a nasty cycle that's taking place out here. You know, some of the things the kids are going through is not quite what we went through, you know, growing up, and also because of social media, the component you mentioned. So what are some things that you see? What are some of the responsibilities? Is it that more of us need to go ahead and step up and put ourselves in that lane, in that pocket, to go ahead and be an agent of change? Or is it something that you put more of the ownership on the parents inside the households? Or even some of the educators? What's your thoughts? I'll start with you, Mr. Killian Bay.
Thank you. First of all, honors to everyone that's here. We're dealing with the youth. Currently, I believe we have to consider where's the disconnect. Where's the disconnect with our youth? We have to be able to come as adults and as political figures come to where the youth are. I think we're not totally there. I think some of us are working on that, but we're not actually getting a voice or being heard or listening to the youth itself. We definitely need more resources as far as to keep them busy. So, and you know, educational wise, recreational centers wise, job class. And I think from that standpoint, we need to start the conversation.
Thank you for that, Mr. Bay. How about you, Mr. Brown? I know you have one dynamic program, the Man Up Push, the Man Up Initiative. So
Yes,
tell me,
sir.
what's your thoughts on that? I think that puts you in a pretty good lane to answer this question.
Yes, sir. From my experience, it starts at home. Some of the children, some of the young ladies that I meet, the ones that had a good upbringing, that had manners, you know, yes ma'am, no ma'am. And you can tell that they had, you know, either a good parent or both parents, but it really starts at home. Now, outside at home, it starts with good programming and accountability systems such as church. You know, when you go to church, you know, you have to practice those manners, yes ma'am, no ma'am. It starts with recreational centers, with mentors and coaches that can hold them accountable. Whenever they're in environments, whether it's home or the city, where no one is holding them accountable, boy, pull your pants up, throw that vape away, you know, and systems like that, then their peers and other people start becoming their mentors and their teachers. Like William Carrington said, the music, you know, when there's no parents, when there's no coaches, no, it's the music, it's the movie. So I believe that besides the parents and starting at home, that, you know, we're a community. Yes, it is not really our fault, but as teachers, as leaders, we have to realize that that young man or that young lady may not have a father or a mother that's mentally, financially, or whatever stable enough to really be that mentor that they need. So we have to step up to the plate and be that parent, just like how, you know, when I was younger, you know, if I got in trouble at school, my parent wasn't coming up to take my side. You know, my parents was coming up to, you know, hit me upside the head in front of the parent's face. So we have to get that village mentality and know that, you know, that may not be my biological son, but that's my son, that's my daughter. We all have to work together and instead of against each other with raising these children.
Absolutely, I 100% agree with you wholeheartedly. We know you were knuckleheaded, so. but to that point, since we're on the educational side, a question that's in place here, it says that the city or county have any programs for our youth to become involved with to educate them on how the judicial system works, so we can go ahead and have more of a proactive as opposed to a reactive dynamic, as opposed to wait until they go ahead and do something and get pulled into the system. For example, any type of tours, mentorship, or legal system educational programs. Do we happen to have anything on task? City and county.
I can take that.
Okay.
So the point earlier made about it starts at home. One of the things people sometimes don't realize is that the prosecutor's office also handles all abuse and neglect cases. So anytime there is a petition filed by Child Protective Services, either to remove a child or not remove a child, but address potential neglect or abuse in a home, the prosecutor's office is the entity. We don't help prosecute those cases, but we are representing that CPS in court. And so we're integrally involved in very, very upstream, meaning absolutely what's going on at home. Because what we know is 1 day in foster care, just 1 day increases a child's likelihood by 7 times that they will be incarcerated, homelessness, some sort of substance abuse issue, terrible outcomes. So what does that say? Well, we really do have to start at home. But what we also have to do is give our youth opportunities and alternatives to doing all of the behaviors we don't like. It really isn't enough anymore to lecture them and tell them, don't vape, don't, you don't need a gun. If we don't want our kids turning to violence or drugs or criminal behavior, we have to give them alternatives. And we also have to give them a community where they don't need to do those things and they see other options. And part of what the mayor's trying to do, working with all stakeholders, including our office, and I know John Ising's committed to this too, is violence interrupters, so that we can go asking of community members to go to sit down on grandma's couch or mom's couch or dad's couch and say, look, I know we've identified your son is affiliated with some gang. Because it's getting easier and easier to do that. I think, the gang task force that we have with Ms. Ison's office and the city of Pontiac and the prosecutors, we have really been able to target very few people in the city of Pontiac who are driving the most violent crime. You would be shocked at the small number of people that are causing, in particular, gun violence, which is what I'm very focused on. And what I want to always say is that this isn't a one-thing fix. It just isn't. Gun violence is the leading cause of death for our children in this country. And I don't have to tell you that. So it's not going to be solved by just taking guns away, and it's not going to be solved by just community members leaning in. There are a lot of things. And it's certainly not going to be solved by arresting and incarcerating more people. That just doesn't work. And if it did, I think we'd all be up here saying, let's just incarcerate more people. But we know it doesn't keep us safe. But I can't be the only one saying that. We need law enforcement on that same page. I mean, we just do. We need law enforcement sitting at this table and saying, look, there are alternatives, and we understand that this is what you've done historically, but it doesn't work. Because I'm just going to be really honest, I have to make charging decisions, but it's not easy for this office to do when I have law enforcement vigorously advocating for the highest charge and the most charges. That isn't, I don't believe, working in partnership. And we also have to hold people accountable. I've committed to being transparent. Very soon you're going to be able to absolutely identify on our website, who are we charging, what color is their skin, what rate are we charging people of different colors and communities, what are we charging them with. Don't think I have to tell you that the data will absolutely show that we are incarcerating and prosecuting people of color at a much higher rate. And before I convince people that is a problem, I have to have the data, and that's what we're doing. But it has to be within partnership with law enforcement.
Well, I appreciate you acknowledging that, because a lot of people will not acknowledge the fact that it's grossly disproportionate. All you gotta do is kind of just look at the statistics, but I've had dialogue with people that are in law enforcement as well as in the judicial system, and the attorney side.
I have too, and I spend a lot of time arguing about it, and I'm not doing that. We're actually just going to have the data, and then that's not going to be an issue anymore. And one of the things I did is met with every chief of police before I took office. And look, I don't have to tell you all, there is a embedded belief in some members of law enforcement that, well, that's just because that community commits more crimes, and that's just we know that's not true. Walk down the street in Pontiac, stop anybody, ask them where they can drive and where they know which street corners they're going to get pulled over. Because am I right?
I know, I'm born and raised in Pontiac,
yeah. And I think we have to listen. We have to stop denying and stop defending and actually just look at the data.
Absolutely, appreciate that. Anyone else want to elaborate on that before I go to the next question? Because I am so interested in hearing your answer, Ms. Smith. Anyone else want to elaborate? Then it takes me to our next question. What judicial programs, and this might even forward to you too, Ms. Tyson. What judicial programs does the county, state, and federal government systems have in place to assist with men and women getting reacclimated back into society after being incarcerated? I repeat, what judicial programs does the county, state, or federal systems have in place to assist with men and women getting reacclimated back into society after being incarcerated?
Well, in 2007, still not loud enough. In 2007, President Bush signed into the Second Chance Act. And MPRI was formed as a result of that. That was Michigan Prisoner Reentry Initiative. It's no longer an initiative. Now we call it offender success. And offender success means when the person is sentenced to prison, from the day that they walk into the institution is the day that we start with Michigan Department of Corrections in trying to ascertain what needs they have. We have InReach, And InReach is transitional teams that actually go into the prison now. I started in 1987 with the Department of Corrections. I started when, if you build them, they will come. Okay, so we were incarcerating people in mass amounts. That is not the case now, and that's one of the reasons why I believe I'm still with Michigan Department of Corrections, because the change has occurred, and we recognize that people need help with transportation, they need help with housing, they need help with vital documents. We have a memorandum of understanding now, Michigan Department of Corrections, with Secretary of State's office, so that we can prove that we know this person was a Michigan citizen. And so they can get their license when they get out. They can get their personal ID when they get out of prison. These are things that were hindering people from getting a job when they were released from prison. So these are things that we're doing now. Not only that, I don't know how many people have heard of Vocational Village. Vocational Village originally started in 2016, where we actually teach trades inside the prison now. Monday through Friday. It's like a work situation where we are teaching trades and people are receiving certificates in CNC machining, in robotics, in carpentry, in electricians. We have electricians. So these and I say carpentry, I'm sorry. These are things that are happening now where we have actually had job fairs inside of the prisons. We've had employers that come in, interview prisoners, and they are walking out of prison with a job, with a sustainable job, not just. So I recognize that MDOC used to have we'll open the doors, we'll see you later attitude. That is not the case now, and I'm very proud of some of the things that we're doing.
And that's why I was so excited to go ahead and slide that question to you, because I know in being transparent, by me taking this post, being part of the Anti-Violence Commission, or the chair of the Anti-Violence Commission, I've been able to find out so much more about how the legal system is operating. And what I'm hearing, I'm excited because these are men and women that I grew up with that have been affected by this. And they're having these struggles, and in this plight. You got to figure out a way to smooth it out. And because of programs like that, and even programs like Greg Anderson, if you can stand up real quick and flip the script. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. You have no idea exactly how much. It's a great handoff from what it is you're doing over at MDOT, and then you hand to programs like that, and then with Brian Kelly and Bay, what you're able to go ahead and do to streamline some of those efforts to go to a flip the script, or some of these other agencies and organizations, because OSHA also has a large suite of services that a lot of people just don't know about, and you're not able to take advantage of. Oakland County, Michigan works. There's so much more than just lining you up with just one job opportunity. They have wraparound services. But we've got to do a better job to get that information out to you so you know that these things exist. So some of the people that might be, because I'm not going to lie, if you find yourself in a situation, you got 3 or 4 kids at home screaming and they're hungry, and they're unable to go ahead and put food in their mouth, it might make someone feel the need to do something that they may not want to necessarily do, but they're going to do something that might be familiar with them to be able to go ahead and take care of that need. But there are these particular resources are there, so you don't even have to do it. But we got to make sure you know about it. That's why we got to go ahead and do a little bit better job on our side. And that's what we're trying to go and do with some of this here today. So thank you so much for that, but I want to go and pass this down to the federal level too with you.
Absolutely. For one thing, I want you to know that my approach to violent crime is both punishment and prevention, because I believe every person that we encourage not to engage in crime helps my job and is a public safety issue. If I get an at-risk youth and make him productive and not engage in criminal conduct, that makes our community safer. If we give returning citizens the support and resources that they need after they have served their time and paid their debt and make them productive, that makes the community safer, and that's what I am responsible for doing. So you may have heard that we announced our One Detroit Violence Reduction Initiative partnership, but I want you to know that it's really the One Eastern District of Michigan Violence Reduction Partnership. We just started in Detroit, but it's going to move. We're going to have a One Pontiac, we're going to have a One Saginaw, we're going to have a One Flint, and on our reentry and the pillars of what we do is establish an executive team for the communities. For example, for the One Detroit Partnership, we not only have law enforcement partners there, but we have Ms. Bev Smith from the Michigan Department of Corrections. We have Black Family Development to help deal with some of these family issues that also plague some of these people engaged in violence. We also have faith-based leadership, and that's Bishop Edgar Van serves as that. We have Ceasefire, a focused deterrence organization that helps with their influencers who help us to communicate in a way that we might not be able to engage with people so that we can discourage them from engaging in crime. And we're gonna come to Pontiac and develop a one executive team, determine who it is that needs to serve on that team based on the area. They're gonna be customized. But we have 3 pillars under these violence reduction partnerships. And it is enforcement, prevention, and reentry. Because again, I believe that the enforcement and prevention is equally as important as enforcement because it serves the same goal in my view. That is making the community safer. And Ms. Bev Smith leads our re-entry pillar under our our violence reduction partnership. And so we are engaging in this way, exposing people to folks. Flip the Script, which is part of Goodwill Industries. They have a welding program we recently where the kids learn to be master welders and come out and they have relationships with employers already, and they come out as soon as they're done with the program and can make $20 an hour. And we recently, Mr. Anderson just told me a success story because we recently had a re-entry symposium at Wayne State a couple of months ago, and we had returning citizens and service providers like Ms. Smith and Mr. Anderson was there, and we were telling stories because the stories matter. But what I want returning citizens to know, and anyone at risk, that your stories don't have to define you. You can define yourself. There is no circumstance that has to define you in such a narrow way. And so, Mr. Anderson, we were telling stories at this reentry program. We had the assistant coach from the Pistons because he is a felon and he likes to come out and tell his story. So he inspired and motivated us and told us his inspirational story of his shame and what he almost did to himself because of the shame that he brought upon his family. And so he came and spoke. But during that time, I met a young man there that Mr. Anderson brought, Mr. Cook, and he just told me today that he completed the program and he is working right now making $20 an hour. That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear.
That point, to think about jobs, even with all the companies, and for the record too, I want to make sure you understand what's taking place in this building too. After you get done with the expungement side, there are some job opportunities that are waiting for you. If you do not have a resume here with you, we have a station, actually with Mr. Anderson, who will do a resume for you right there on the spot. And these jobs, these people were instructed to come not with minimum wage, but with living wages. Because $10.10 ain't gonna go ahead and get it. Just call it a spade a spade. Federal government, we need to work on that. I know I had nothing to do with that. We have to go ahead and do something better about that. But so please take advantage of those opportunities. They're sitting out there, they're ready, they're willing, and they're eager to go ahead and make sure they match some great people with some great opportunities. But with that being said, I'm sorry, Mary, it looked like you wanted to say something on this? Okay, then I want to go to this next question. And this is going to go for everyone that's affected in touching the judicial system. Once someone has served their time and paid their debt to society, should those being released have all of their rights back? Those, yeah, I knew you were going to jump on that. Once someone has served their time and paid their debt to society, should those being released have all their rights restored?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Kano Phillips. Definitely yes. But I just want to tell you just how difficult it was with my own transition when I was released in 2003 from the Michigan Department of Correction. There was no such thing as reentry. But I was lucky because the agency called Families Against Mandatory Minimum was actually fighting and rallying for states and the federal government to change their harsh mandatory drug laws. I was one of the first that was sentenced in the state of Michigan based on those very, very harsh, archaic drug laws. And I received a 20 to 30 year prison sentence. And at that time, I was actually a college student at University of Michigan. So imagine the pain I felt and the shame I felt when it come to telling my mom, talking to her in a Genesee County jail. She said, I just can't believe you done that when your father was a heroin addict and well as some of your own family members had drug issues. And that was one of the most saddest moments of my life when I knew that my mom was a welfare mom. providing for 3 kids and doing everything she could to make sure that her kids had a better way. And she definitely taught us how to have that way. But for some reason, me being stupid and having that machismo, thinking I'm the head of the household, I decided to do things that I knew was wrong. And I found myself in a very, very bad situation. So kudos to Michigan Department of Corrections as well as the federal government, because there was nothing. There was no programs, there was no apprenticeship, there was no training. Everything was based on punishment. And hoping that they give you enough time so when you got out of prison that you'll be too old to commit any other crime. So again, it's imperative that the community is sympathetic to someone coming back into society, as well as, it's been a tough journey for me. I know times where people sit up and say, you don't deserve to do anything because you have a felony. And for 20 years, I put that behind me. I didn't even try to get an expungement because I was so determined to show that I needed a system that was very oppressive to allow me to succeed in society. So last year, I finally gave in, and I actually received some expungement for my state cases, as well as anything that was on my record in the state of Tennessee as well. I'm still working on my federal expungement. But it's been a blessing to have people in the community that was able to give me opportunity, especially the city of Pontiac. I stood up in front of this community and talked about doing time in prison. And this community wholeheartedly welcomed me and gave me the opportunity to really shine in this particular field. So again, we have to get rid of any law that's going to hinder returning citizens from being successful. One, I was rejected. I wanted to sell stocks and bonds. I've been reading in prison. You know how you get in prison, you read all these books. So I wanted to sell bonds. I wanted to get rich, actually. And I applied to the state for licensing, and they reject that my particular application based on me having a felony. So that's definitely a hindrance. I couldn't find anywhere to live. I tried Detroit, Flint. I couldn't get anybody to rent to me. But amazingly, I was able to get an apartment in the city of Birmingham, Michigan, which is shocking. That I couldn't find any way to rent in Flint or Detroit, but I was able to get an apartment in the suburbs. So we have to stop those discriminatory practices when it comes to these housing complexes where ex-offenders can't stay with a family that's in federal finance housing programs. So it's imperative that we get rid of those laws too.
Thank you for that, Mr. Kennedy. Matter of fact, I appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and hear from Mr. Killian Bay, before I go ahead and slide this to our federal government and our county. So, I do want you to take input on this. What you got, Mr. Bay?
On the same question?
Yes.
Absolutely yes. There's no one in the United States, in this world, that has not made a mistake. So why should I, once anyone makes a mistake, be bared upon their entire life about that mistake? And my thing, I have a similar story. I've even applied for here. I was a loan officer, very successful. All types of award, 7, 8 months. I applied to be a loan officer when I came back home to United Wholesale. Got through all the interviews. They said, oh, you know what? So one more thing. You're almost hired. Everything, the package is ready. You can come tomorrow. We have one question to ask you. Are you a felon? I hesitated. I wanted to lie. But the Muslim in me said, nope, we got to be true. You've changed your life. That's behind you. I answered the question. They said, we'll give you a call back. I'm still waiting on that call. No, I take that back. I'm still waiting on the call, but they did email saying, hey, your services, because of this, you're not able to. And that is one of the reasons that I really push for expungement fares. I really push for reentry. I wanted the key persons that had, that turnaround, that had that shame to where I had to tell my mom, hey, you was a drug dealer? I was like, oh. She was like, no, that's not my son. And I did not comprehend at the time what she was saying, but the acts that I was doing, that wasn't me. And that wasn't her purpose for my family. So once I decided that and wanted to, turn myself around, I still have this stigma, which a lot of the community holds against us, entitlement of I'm a felon. No, I'm Brian Killian Baker. everybody's an individual, and I truly don't think that title, that entity should be upon us the rest of our lives. Because if you really want to say reentry, you really want to say returning citizen, then give our citizenship back.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I do want to add, in my opinion, I think it should be case by case. You know, if I have a history of hurting people, you know, or because I did 3 or 4 years, I don't think that necessarily they should be able to go and purchase a gun again.
That's right.
I think. I also think, let's just say, for example, just like these guys, you know, I was convicted for 7 years for, you know, cocaine and crack, you know, trying to, you know, make some money. However, I've been an entrepreneur for well over a decade, you know, business owner, general. I also have a family, you know, and I live in a city where sometimes it can be a little rough, you know, mental health, and, you know, people may want to rob you. So I feel a little defenseless knowing that I can't carry a gun because, you know, years ago I caught a crime. So I believe it should be more of a system where someone that's convicted, especially if they're doing business or whatever in the city that they're in, maybe they can go to the community or council and state their case and say, hey, you know, I'm a business owner or this and that. Would y'all help me, you know, get my rights back? And case by case by case. I don't think it should be an open and shut close because you're a felon, you can't get your rights, or because, you know, it should be case by case.
That's right.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you for that.
Well, I wasn't going to answer the question actually because I do need to stay in my lane, and that's just really a legislative thing, right? That is a legislative thing, and that's not my position. But I appreciate Mr. Jermaine saying that because the question was so broad, like all of your rights restored. So, but this is what I will say. I do believe that we need to remove the barriers, particularly for returning citizens. And when you talk about, you know, a felon affecting their ability to get a job, you know, there's a number of initiatives, especially in Detroit, ban the box, so that you don't have to check that box, that you can, and I don't know if there's similar programs in Oakland County, but I do believe that we should help, you know, remove the barriers so that you can become productive citizens. Because again, I feel like the more productive you are, the safer our community is going to be. And so barriers in housing that people mention, because you know, I do a lot of listening sessions, I've worked with Darryl Woods from Nation Outside. I met with him last year, and he works with us very collectively. He was part of our reentry symposium. I remember you. Yeah, part of our reentry symposium at Wayne State. And we collaborate with them all the time to help us in this effort so that they can speak to the people, because they have so many stories to tell and they are so influential and persuasive with getting people. And so we're listening to find out, I'm trying to figure out what I can do. You know, I have some limitations to what I can do, but even what I can advocate for with people who do about helping to remove barriers for returning citizens. And so it's exposing them again to programs like Flip the Script. It's also trying to remove barriers, because I learned that while some men are in prison, that the friend of the court still assesses child support against them, and when they come out, they have warrants, and I'm like, that's ridiculous. So, you know, you were trying to get them and so that was something I learned, and we're trying to address that, and Ms. Smith, and trying to address that issue. I learned that with housing, that they will make applications for housing, and you know, they have to take a application fee, and then they find out they have a felony, and then they don't get in the house, but they don't return their fee, and so they're going in the hole with trying to find a place by having to pay all these application fees. So I wholeheartedly believe that we should remove barriers for making returning citizens. I won't speak to the legislative part of it, but I'm just talking about what I believe is my duty to make the community safer. And if that means removing barriers for returning citizens so that they can be productive, that makes the community safer, and that's my job. So.
You're not playing around now, and I can appreciate that. Way to go ahead and put your action behind, you know, lip service. You're doing it. And I'm gonna give you, Mayor, I'm gonna give you the opportunity to go ahead and attack this question, given the fact from your professional career as an attorney. So, pull that into play.
Well, I want to echo the comments of U.S. Attorney Eisen and Max. I think when it comes to really fundamental rights, the right to vote, for example, that's a no-brainer. Obviously, people who have done their time need to have those rights restored, and it's pretty outrageous that in a number of states, felons can't vote still, even after they're released from prison. That's not the case in Michigan, by the way. I want to really emphasize that, because some people say, well, I can't vote, I have a felony on my record. That doesn't matter in Michigan. You can vote as long as you're outside of prison. But there, I think, are some circumstances where some restrictions are important in terms of protecting other people's safety. People who have a record of violence or a recent record of violence, and guns, for example, as Max said. At the city of Pontiac, we believe it's very important that we hire those with records. And so we certainly hire people with records. But there are some restrictions based on the crime, based on the position, based on how recent that was. For example, we don't want people who have a conviction of being sexual predators working with kids in our youth recreation program. So I think there are some common sense restrictions that can apply, but I think the most important thing is that we ensure that everybody who has a record, all returning citizens, have ladders to success and ladders to being productive again. And that's not just because of the moral imperative of believing in people's redemption, but it's also because that is actually important to making everybody safe. If we don't give people real opportunities to being productive again, to being responsible citizens, to making an honest living, then they'll resort to making a dishonest living. And so it's really, really important that we make sure that those who return to society have real opportunities to success through the legitimate, legal, economic system.
Thank you for that, Mayor. At this point, I'm sorry, did you want that? Excuse me. I digress. Prosecutor, Karen McDonald.
Two things. One, having the approach and saying to the people in my office, the people that you're prosecuting are your sisters, your brothers, your fathers, your mothers. These are people, and it's so easy for those of us prosecuting or law enforcement to think of the person that they're prosecuting or arresting as somehow so different. But the reality is there's very little difference between the people we prosecute and the victims of crime. And there's very little difference between the people we prosecute and ourselves. So the way that we do that is by allowing and encouraging those conversations. We just hosted a group of returning citizens at the prosecutor's office and had the assistant prosecutor sit down with them for about an hour and a half, and it was really, really eye-opening. First, it had never been done, and second, it really just gives permission and encourages people. We're all human beings. When you stand in the court and you say, Karen McDonald on behalf of the people, it's all the people. It's not just a victim, it's all the people. And second, you all are really the key to what's going to happen in this county, in this state, in this country. Because you've elected people who care about everyone and care about the rights and dignity and humanity of every single person. And that you are more than just one bad decision. And that's how we have to keep doing that. Right now, you have the county prosecutor, the U.S. attorney, the mayor, and if you look at our legislature right now, they are introducing bills almost every week that are geared towards doing the right thing, not just the thing we've done for decades. So please don't underestimate your own power, because that's what you have to do. You have to care who you are electing, and you have to make sure you know who you're electing, and you have to vote, because otherwise nothing's going to change. We wouldn't be here if you hadn't done that.
McDonald, thank you. At this point, I want to go ahead and open up, I want to create an opportunity for all of you, and maybe have some questions, maybe have some statements, because education goes two ways. So that being said, right here, matter of fact, can I have my young people? Okay, well, I was going to have them bring the microphone to all of you, so make it even go. You start it off. Yep, since you're there. But after that, Randy.
I was really
Go ahead.
So I'm Oakland County Commissioner Angela Powell, and I just wanted to share my experience briefly going through this expungement fair, at least with my experience with my fiance. He had 2 expungements, one in Oakland County and one in Detroit. All I want to say is pack your patience. Go through this process. Do not give up. And if you get a hiccup with a court date or something just ain't right, call that prosecutor's attorney office. Okay? Please, do not stop. Do not give up. It is a process. And even as your county commissioner here for the city, you can call me. They know. The county prosecutors know. I'm calling them for constituents like, hold up, we got an issue here. What's going on?
Because and we take her call.
Yes. And let me say this why I do that. Because, and I went through this, we went through the process.
Last year.
Yes, I wanted to see it so that I could walk all my constituents through this process. Be it Oakland County, and then I went to Wayne County. So all I'm saying is, please, please, spread the word. Pack the patience. It is a process. But if God is to bless you, you will get that expungement, okay? So that's all I want to say. And one other thing I want to say is, the mayor alluded to, if you're not in prison, you can still vote. If you're not being convicted yet, right, and prosecutor, you can contest this, and even if you're holding in Oakland County Jail, you can request your ballot from your clerk's office where your address is, and they are to come bring you your ballot to vote while you wait. So, that's what's happening here in Michigan. And I am going to volunteer myself. If you all have any problems going through this expungement, call your county commissioner. And I also work for the mayor at the city of Pontiac. You can find me. Please, I want to help you. Because I'm confident that our prosecuting attorney they get down to it, and they will let you know if it's what's going on, okay? So please, go through this process. It is, and it does work.
Appreciate that, Commissioner. Thank you. All that energy coming through that microphone like that. Who we got right here? And it was a gentleman I saw with a hand up over there. Okay, we come to you next.
Hello, I'm Jackie Curry. I'm the newly appointed engagement specialist for all of Oakland County for Nation Outside, Voices for the Formerly Incarcerated. And we are a grassroots organization, and we're made up, the organization is ran by formerly incarcerated individuals. We are statewide, so you'll know we are statewide, and we just opened our chapter here in Pontiac. And what I want to say, thank you, Mayor, for saying that, because I have a lot of people that come to me about employment. And so I also employed in Wayne County as a bus driver because I couldn't find anywhere here in Oakland County. But I do have my own business, transportation business also. So I just knew, I was telling people, go to Wayne County because the mayor opened it up for anyone, for you to have employment. Thank you for saying that. And also, we had a leaders luncheon on Wednesday, and I found out also that Oakland County, they also hire formerly incarcerated citizens here, but it's certain jobs, but they do hire. And I just want you to know that, thank you, that's basically what I wanted to say.
Appreciate you, Ms. Curry.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that. You got him over here, gentlemen? Then we got this young lady right here. I know I get that back.
My name is Andrew Kilmore. I am affiliated with TARP. She's affiliated with TARP as well. We're all part of the coalition with the Sentencing Project, the Innocence Project. We're all we are. Excuse me. We have a lot of prisoners that help persuade us and show us the struggles that they go through. And a lot of the questions that I have are based on the Second Chance Act that Can't remember your name, I'm sorry.
Smith, Beverly Smith.
Ms. Smith, with the second act from 2007 from Bush. We're also part of the Second Look Act. We're trying to have that legislation passed where a lot of science shows that individuals that are younger than 25 are not fully mentally developed. And it's irresponsible and unreasonable to give an individual that is, let's say, 22 years old, life without parole. Because the science shows that had they been 35, they probably would not have made that mistake. Or if they were 27, they probably would not have made that mistake. And the other question that I have here, because I'm with, like the MBOC mission statement is for rehabilitation. It is not the Department of Punishment. It is the Department of Corrections. So how can you correct somebody's behavior that are going to die in prison? It just doesn't seem feasibly, positive, to their rehabilitation or for them to want to do better as a human being inside, the walls of, incarceration. That's my outlook, because a short, real quick story, a man protected his children from another abusive man with, their mother, and things got awry and ended up killing the other guy. And none of that was really brought about in court. So the man got life without parole, first-degree murder. And I was one of those children that was abused by that man. And my father's in prison for first-degree murder for life. And I have a vested interest in trying to help a lot of people, especially the marginalized and everybody else, make change to justice reform for the betterment of society, because it's not helping a lot of people. It's causing a lot of distress and a lot of duress and just harming too many people for their futures. The other questions here I had was this gentleman here on the end, the Michigan Felony Firearms Act, 750.224F. You are allowed to get your gun rights back, but it's 5 years and you have to apply to get that done. I'm also a CPL firearms instructor. I'm a legal researcher and a paralegal for Comet Patel. And I've been doing a lot of the Livonia, Coalition for Livonia for Black Lives Matter and things like that. We help them. They just did a recent program where they were fixing people's taillights, lights on their cars and stuff like that to prevent them from getting pulled over, to prevent issues, from police brutality, etc. And the other concern that I had was when we were talking about policing, I personally believe that police officers should be way more trained and way more knowledgeable about the actual laws that they enforce, because they go through 6-month and 1-year programs, and lawyers go through 8 years, 7, 8 years of schooling to enforce the law and to uphold it. But police officers go through maybe a year or two tops in certain states, and they're just going through the motions. They're going by department policy. So I really feel that they should be.
We appreciate that, man. We appreciate you. You was running there. You was going all down the this young lady right here. And thank you for that too.
I have a question for the prosecutor. I filed my case like 23 years ago. I tried to get it expunged twice, but when Oakland County was doing that lifetime probation, since they no longer do anymore, but I had never been in trouble and I filed a case, so they gave me lifetime probation. Every time I expunge through the expungement, I get denied because I was offered lifetime probation. Which after 5 years, I got off of it. But they was doing that to people. They were actually giving them lifetime probation. And I have the paperwork from me doing the expungement twice, being denied because that was my first offense and I ain't know no better, and I took the lifetime probation. Which I only did 5 years. I don't think they'll even offer it anymore.
I don't.
Actually, I want to ask the question
I
about
don't
that
even think they
too.
offer it anymore.
I also had that lifetime probation.
Okay, since I've been practicing law, lifetime probation is not something that a judge I'm aware of. I don't think it's legal to do anymore. I don't have that's just not something we do, and I would never ever recommend as a lawyer defending anybody or as a prosecutor lifetime probation. So, but there are people in my office who are here today that you can go ask about that, but that's not something that I would ever.
Well, the law was repealed. I mean, it was a state law, so it was repealed.
You know what I'm saying?
And
She's talking about it.
I did the expungement twice. It was 23 years ago. I never even been to prison. It was my first.
Yeah, so it's my chief assistant over here.
I'm David Williams. I'm the chief assistant in the prosecutor's office. Ultimately, that decision is up to a judge. We would never oppose an expungement for someone with lifetime probation on one offense. So we will go to court and ask the judge to expunge it. Ultimately, that's up to the judge, but our office would never try to prevent that expungement.
But is this still hindering both? Is that still hindering both of you?
I've got my own paperwork from when I started an attorney.
Oh, he
I paid an attorney to.
Mine was for $80.
No, we absolutely want to hear you. Let me get a point.
But mine, I paid an one. They should have been around there. Paperwork myself. And my reason is, I had lifetime probation. I only have one felony, and I was in for 23 years, and I did it at least 2-3 times.
He's still here right now.
And that's my reason that I did it.
Well, mine was from '89, and I did 14 years of lifetime probation on it. And I had a couple other cases after that I went, and they were set aside already, which I had already started my process. But isn't the courts after 10 years supposed to seal these at the courthouses because they were still showing. There was my file for that case and a violation and another alias, somebody had used my name. Those are still in the court records. That I'm concerned about going through this as well, because I'm just in the beginning phases of all this.
You know, I want to say this. You know, I'm just talking to Mr. Killian Bay. He went through something very similar. When this is done, he kind of gave me some a good pathway for you to possibly take to go in and have that address. After this is over, I would like you two to go ahead and talk. All right?
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, that's what I was concerned with.
How y'all doing? I'm a 5-year young man in the community, and I was wondering to the community leaders and the mayor, is there any type of programs being put together for our youth, like for our community centers, athletic programs, anything like that?
Yeah, so it's a really important point, and we have ramped up our youth recreation and enrichment programming. So for the past year now, starting last summer, we have a lot of great programs in place. Last summer, we had 1,000 young people from Pontiac participating in those programs. We anticipate another really strong summer of participation. But we also had it in the fall, and winter, and spring. So we've got lots of programs in place. And people can sign up online, and these programs, sports, athletics, but art, music, entrepreneurship classes, a really broad range of things, depending on what people are interested in. But it's also really important that we actually have a brick and mortar location, a physical location. And the city hasn't had a actual city-owned youth rec center since the emergency manager shut all of them down. However, we did just recently buy property to build a new youth rec center. So the city now newly owns that property. We're going to be commencing a community-led design process, or we'll be rolling out town halls and other opportunities for people to talk with us about what they want to see as part of that community center for our young people. So stay tuned, because we're going to be doing that in the next few months, and then we're going to hopefully be breaking ground on this next year.
Great question.
Good evening, good morning, everyone.
you all for allowing everyone here, including myself. Thank you to the panel. I'm here representing an organization called Transition to Your Future. A young lady by the name of Jacqueline White. I'm listening to your stories, and she would be here in tears right now because she really, really wants to help everyone, especially with the wraparound services. It was great to hear that the MDOC actually does have resources where people in prison can actually do interviews and have sustainable jobs. That's great to hear. I'm in government, and during the daytime I work for Van Buren Township as well, and just knowing that, that's good for recruitment for me, because there is ban the box, but you ban the box, eventually you still have to go through the background. The question still has to be asked. So I am glad to know that there are services, but please stop by TTYF's table. She does offer a lot of services for, like I said, the wraparound services for returning citizens. And she wants to help with housing. She wants to help with transportation. She wants to help young ladies get their children back. She wants to help with the men who have been on child support. They are locked away. She is very young, but she is very excited. She is very experienced. She has family members that are going through this. So again, I appreciate everybody's time, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Somebody else will start with their hand up. I want to make sure I'm not.
Hello, how everybody doing?
Doing all right, sir.
Yeah, my name is Anthony Kyles, and my question is that I want to know that what can be done about. I was gone for 25 years for a crime that I didn't commit. I was just exonerated 7 months ago, and finally get a chance to meet you, Mr. McDonald. Yeah, thank you very much. And my question is that since I've been home, I've been running into roadblocks dealing with, like, far as say housing. I go try to get me an apartment or a house or whatever, and based upon my background, they do a background check. They're not allowing you to, get a place to stay or whatever. Just the same way like when you go get a job or whatever. I can understand the job doing the background, but as far as the housing is concerned, how is it that I'm able to live anywhere if you're gonna look at a record, and then on top of that, the record's been expunged, well, portions of it anyway. I'm still dealing with the rest of everything, but that's something that needs to really be addressed, Thank you for
I appreciate you bringing that to us, and I'm going to talk to you before you get out of here, okay? Thank you. Yeah, this young lady right here, then Mr. Anderson, and you. Then we'd like to go and close it up.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the wrongful convictions and what's being addressed about that.
Say it one more time.
What's being done about wrongful convictions? Was there a task force?
When I took office in 2020, I started a conviction integrity unit, and then with the Board of Commissioners granted me a prosecutor, an investigator, and a support staff. So we have 3 people, and their whole function is to review cases and recommend, investigate, do their own investigation, and they work independently. So she works for the prosecutor's office, but she was a defense attorney, and reports directly to me and does a very thorough review and investigation, and then recommends appropriate relief. And Mr. Kyles was one of them. My office exonerated him because we have to acknowledge when mistakes were made, and we have to care just as much about somebody who's wrongly convicted. So is it enough? No. Should it ever happen? No. But the other thing that I do is also mandatory training on ethics with prosecutors in my office to hope to prevent that from happening in the first place.
I know that there's a focus on the felony charges, but also as far as misdemeanors, I was told that they just don't have the resources to look into people that were wrongfully convicted of misdemeanors. But they affect people's lives, they're getting jobs.
I agree, and if you go to our website, there's a way.
it gives you avenue to get your case and apply and get it reviewed. Again, she's reviewing 100 and some cases, and we do a very thorough job, but I wouldn't say don't try. I think you should.
Great.
I hate that Brian had to walk off. This question was actually for him, but others on the panel may be
Tell Brian to come back.
Yes. Because I know my foundation is a
Brian.
major community
Brian.
resource hub. So Brian, I got a question for you. Others on the panel may be I'm worried about man today. That's all right. I know that you know, MIAC organization, MIAC Foundation is a major part of resource navigation. So earlier we were talking about, and some of the things that were, the comments that were made on the panel were about everything starts with the household, right? My work has shown me that what we think going on in the household is really different from what was going on back in the day, so to speak, right? So there's different challenges in the household. What resources are available to reduce the barriers of the heads of households? So as you improve the lives of young people that are in violent, situations, you can't send them back to a household where it's, riddled with barriers. So what are some of the barriers that people that are head of households will look forward to?
Well, that is one of the barriers that we have experienced, and that's why I created MIAC as peer-to-peer, to get more earthly righteous questions and truthful questions as far as what is the real experience, what is going on. And we don't just deal with people as far as coming home, we deal with the family members, because when I was incarcerated, partially my family was. They have to support, they have to take the calls, they have to. So with that said, we've learned, and in my program, that we utilize as many resources as possible. Jackie is one of them that's instituted in the housing. I've been to other groups that said, hey, we're about employment. And I give them the vet that I have from these people and say, hey, what is your problem? Is it housing? And I go to those certain people that I have in our resources and allow them to go to them and be dealt with. So with that said, a lot of it comes out of the peer-to-peer, because we also work with the children. And I hear that, and Mr. Phillips will take that. We were at a session, and the young lady stood up and said, hey, this is all brilliant. Everything is good, but I gotta go home to this. And I don't know about everybody else, but I teared up, because it hit me again that, yeah, we may give them all this and say all this and we're behind you, but they go home to a different circumstance. No one was listening to it until that day. So I've learned from that to have the resources, like me and you had talked about, okay, let's partner. I can't do everything. So if I can't do this, like Kids First, I put them in the program with one of my good friends with Kids First Initiative, that we have this program. Or I go to Mr. Phillips with his sin. So we do a lot of like outsourcing resources to be able to tackle that, because it is a very, very important situation that we have to deal with.
I'm gonna say this before, can I say this, piggyback on, look, what I do for a living is I run an organization called The Sin. I'm in those households that he's talking about. I'm dealing with some of the cases that will make your soul cringe. Some of the things these kids are dealing with, I mean, they got some raggedy mamas and daddies out there. And they just flat out, raggedy mamas and daddies. And because of that, there's no wonder these kids are sitting on here walking through the bowels of hell like they are. So, intricately, but here's the problem that I'm having with that. All these people want to step up and say, yeah, I'm a mentor, or I got this program, or I got this solution for kids. But then you fall short. You're passionate about it on Monday, but by Friday, you're going off to the next other venture in your life, and you left that kid out there hanging. You left him high and dry. And he's already in crisis, because it's not like this is a kid. He doesn't have these resources to be able to go ahead and productively create a dynamic for himself to escape it. So what is that we're going to go ahead and do with that? Bottom line to it is, I'm telling you, and any of you are out here, if you are passionate about being mentors, if you're not ready to go ahead and run a marathon, don't do it. Because you're making it that much more difficult for organizations like myself. Because like I said, I guarantee you this, there's no organization in this city that dig deep into the walls of a household than we do. And I'm telling you, I hate what I see. Y'all gotta be right by this. But that's the problem and the issue that we're having right now. Come on. I'm sorry. You say I got
that was an explanation point, but I do want to follow up on that because that is the philosophy behind the violence reduction partnership that we have created with One Detroit, that we will create with One Pontiac and One Saginaw and all of that. And that is bringing other people to the table. And that is why Black Family Development is part of the One Detroit executive team, because what we find is that there are a lot of great organizations out here operating in silos and everybody getting the grants and stuff, but it's not cohesive. So what the philosophy behind the executive team is that if somebody is out on, because we do have to treat the family if we want the kids to succeed. I mean, that's just the bottom line. We got to try to treat the family. And so if somebody is out on enforcement, the whole philosophy behind this executive team for this violence reduction partnership is true partnership with people who can help in a holistic way for all of the things that we have to deal with. So if my folks are out on enforcement and they see an issue with the family, then we have Black Family Development right there. They're right on the team, and we can have them. And then from there, they can decide how we can treat this family to help treat these children. And so it is so important that we come together, but it be more tangible. And that is the whole philosophy about establishing these executive teams that provide this holistic support, because we need more than just enforcement. We need to have those boots on the ground, because my enforcement people might be on a scene and they can just pick up the phone and call our other partner and say, we need this today, and they are at the ready to come and do it.
Thank you, U.S. Attorney Eisen. Listen, this is what I want to go ahead and do, being respectful, because we got passionate about them. We still going to carry this on for 2 questions, which is yours and then the young lady right there, and we cut it off. Because okay, hold on. Yeah, we do this. If you have a walk-in, if you are walking, pre-register, and please, we waiting for you outside. Because we kind of extended a little bit longer than we need to with this. So please, feel free to start. And thank you so much for coming in and being part of this presentation. Thank you. Now, if you have something you want to go ahead and hear, we're not going to push you out the door neither, but go ahead, Mary.
Okay. On page 3 of this application, it says that the Michigan application footprint card charges $50 processing fee. Do we have a way to waive $50 processing fee? Let me tell you why that. Because when we have attorneys presented, we have attorneys citizens from home, but the barrier is the fees and application. So there has to be a way to waive that. That's the question from Ms. McDonald. The question for the mayor is, I already know the answer, but I just want the people here. Is Pontiac, the city of Pontiac, friendly to racially impacted people? And if so, how can one individual apply for the jobs that we have available for those jobs that are ready? I'll leave you there you go.
I honestly don't know, and the people in my office and the people in that room, I can, as soon as we're done here, I'll go find that answer for you.
Yeah, we can go over to we go over to we'll meet together to have this conversation with Safe and Just Pontiac, Michigan. Right? Yeah, I was saying with Safe and Just Michigan, the prosecutor's office, we'll sit down and we'll go ahead and handle this question collectively.
Just need the mayor to answer. Go ahead.
Yes, well, first of all, let me acknowledge Councilwoman Melanie Rutherford, who's one of our city council people. She didn't introduce herself by her title. And I spoke a little bit to this before you arrived, Councilwoman, but yes, we do hire folks with records, and we do have a website that lists all openings at the city. So feel free to check those job openings out and apply.
Thanks.
Okay. Did you have a question or a statement?
I have a question.
Okay, did you have a question or a statement? Statement? Make your statement, we'll hear your question, so we finish it off. Yeah, we gotta close it out, because we gotta be out of this room. It matter.
I like to say, like, the fairness thing to the household thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It changed a lot because, like, when I was, like, I'm 46, when I was younger, we got discipline, right?
Yes.
So today, when you discipline your kids, that's considered child abuse, right? So you can't even yell at your kids too loud. Definitely you can't hit them. So it's like, you can't control your kids. What about the people who's trying to control? Like, you know, I had kids try to step up to me, my own kids, and I put them in their place. I can go to jail for it, right?
But to that point, now let me tell you the thing I wish we would not do in schools, because even if there is law saying that they can't touch you, we still need to be able to put that fear in your kid. And right now in the schools, these teachers are educating the kids. You can't even go ahead, if you threaten me, then you can go ahead and I can have you arrested. I heard a kid just straight up chin check her mother with that. And the mother didn't touch the kid. The mother just said, look, don't make me have to go ahead and do something to you. Oh, you threaten me? I'm about to call the police. We can't, I wish we would do a little something different about that. But let me say this. This is the problem though. Kids nowadays, man, you got kids inside those households, man. You got 12 and 13-year-old kids raising that 2 and 3 and 4-year-old siblings. It's a different dynamic in the households than when we came up. So that village concept is gone. And so to you, I understand someone like you who may want to go ahead and do some things, but it goes a lot deeper than that. You got mamas and daddies who want to come up to the schools, man, and want to go ahead and jump on the principal because I went set up and discipline the kid or the teacher. I just had an incident at the high school just 2 years ago where the lady, right before the pandemic hit, lady comes into the school, kid gets in trouble in class. Counselor sits up there, sends the kid to the office and be suspended. Mother comes up to the school, comes into the counselor's door. You know how you see them doors, they got the little glass slit you can look in, but it's a solid door? Mother comes in, a lady walks in, takes the poster closest to the door, buttons her hair up, takes the sticker posters off the wall to block the hole so can't no one see, and she commits to go ahead and start trying to go to work on the counselor. This is what we got going on. So I just want to make sure we can see all sides of the spectrum here. But y'all listen, I'm sorry, I gotta take a question that I know we got to go close it out because we're supposed to get out this room about something.
Well, I think sometimes they're years.
You want the microphone?
Yeah, but not loud.
Sorry about that. And anybody else want to stick around and ask some questions?
And ironically, I am from Ohio, and I drove up here 2 hours to come sit in with this. What I have to deal with is in the Macomb County, which you guys can definitely help me with. The problem I have is, it's really hard for people trying to get back on track when they have something on their record, and they're working hard, and they want to get back to the community. I work with people because my husband had gotten sick, and I take care of it. We don't know how long he'll be here, but we're going to take it. My problem is the money that goes into caring for him and the children and the responsibilities, then you have the restitution you have to pay back. And then you're told you can't get anywhere unless you have an attorney in court to try to get an expungement. How can we, without having to come up with $2,500 for the expungement or $50,000 for restitution, get help to get this off the record so we can move forward and make more money? Because, as you say, $10 ain't going to work, $20 ain't going to work.
Yeah, I really want to go ahead and tackle that.
That's a difficult question to answer because you have to pay your restitution. I mean, that's the bottom line. You got to pay your restitution.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to expungements, it depends on the county, quite frankly. So you need to talk to your county officials and, let me,
But you don't need an attorney.
But you shouldn't need an attorney for it, So you just need to talk to someone and see where you can direct it out.
And the people out there are really answering those specific questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your morning just to go and be a part of this panel discussion. Please put your hands together one more time for our